Hey everyone, Jamal here with Review Me and Paper Cup Magazine and another edition of Shoot the Shit where real photographers get live, and we're chilling with the awesome Kayla Varley. Say what's up.
Hi.
Kayla is an amazing photographer based out in LA, shoots a lot of lifestyle work, also great commissioned work for brands, and we're definitely going to get into that shortly. So Kayla, if you could just give us a quick 1 to 2 minute blurb about yourself, and then we'll get going.
Okay, so I was born in a really small town called Bakersfield, California, with not a lot to do. And around the age of 12 or 13, I picked up a camera and got completely immersed in it, was just fully obsessed. My father was a hobby photographer who was actually really, really bad, but he helped me grow and just kind of nurtured my photography and saw how much I loved it. And then from the age of like 13 to about, until I moved away from Bakersfield, I was just like, I couldn't stop thinking about photography. And then I went to school at Art Center in Pasadena, which is a great, great school, but I think it kind of hindered my my creativity. And so I left after about a year and just started doing it all myself, and kind of like there were so many ups and downs, but just kept trying, kept plugging away, and eventually got to a place after I think about 6 years of just struggling really, really hard. And now it's good. It's comfortable.
Awesome. And let's talk about that. We've had people on here who've got to Parsons and they're doing great, and then we have other people who didn't do any schooling. So I guess for you, what was hindering about school? And it seems like you just were obsessed with photography and you just did it you learned on your own. So what about that worked for you?
So Art Center's weird. They make you work so hard. And I think it's on purpose. It's to make you figure out how to actually work really hard outside of school as a freelancer, to try to prepare you for the real world. But I was so young and just so, I didn't even, I don't know, I wasn't ready for it. But I think doing that early on kind of showed me like how to be a really hard worker and how to work hard every day and make work continuously. And still to this day, I remember this one class I had where our professor turned off all the lights, and he showed us what impact was, and that was just so eye-opening. I think about it all the time when I shoot. And so there's a few things that stick around with me from school, but for the most part, I think it was just so rigid and so strict, and I'm very loose, and I like to flow and have things come out of me naturally. And I think having someone tell me when and where to create was just so stifling. It was hard, but it was good. It was just not for me.
Got you. So you were like, all right, I'm done with this. Peace. And yeah, just like that, you're like, peace. Okay, you started doing it on your own, and you said it was a struggle. So talk about those early years. So obviously you're still trying to get your creative juices flowing, but were you just shooting anything and everything? Were you shooting every day? What were you doing?
I shot myself, my friends, my life. I guess me shooting lifestyle came from just shooting everything around me that was interesting or I thought needed to be documented. And I tried to find those little moments in between that were telling of my life. And I guess that's why it's called lifestyle, but I had no idea it was what I was shooting at the time. And it was like not necessarily good work, but I felt it was necessary to make, because I've always had this strong urge to just get the stuff out. I feel like it was very therapeutic as a young person to have that creative outlet. And the struggles were crazy, because when you're 18 years old living in Los Angeles with no money and no support from anybody really, it's like you do it all on your own. And so for a while I started modeling and doing like acting and commercials, which was bizarre, but I have a nice smile, so it was like whatever can pay the bills, you know? And that kind of, I mean, it all helped to prepare me for what I'm doing now, and it shaped me. At the time, I thought I was completely failing, but it worked out, I guess.
Yeah. And then in terms of like getting some of those early jobs, like did you email people? Did you get it from modeling? Like how did you start getting some of those simple paid gigs? Like how did those first little pieces of success start to trickle down?
I feel like a lot of the work that I was commissioned to do when I first got paid for work was I was found on social media. I think it was Instagram and like Pinterest and Tumblr. They just found me and reached out to me. And so, for instance, my first real professional gig as a photographer was shooting Volcom Stone, their women's line, back in 2013. And they just reached out because they found my Instagram and really liked my work and liked the energy. And so I had a meeting with them and it went well. And then I guess it just, honestly, it's social media, I think. It's crazy, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually very interesting because you see you're seeing people with that exact same story that are just like, yeah, I just put my work up and boom, I got some gigs. So, but you obviously didn't put your work up on social media to get gigs per se. So I guess talk about how you approach social media and what other opportunities has it led to so far.
Oh, one other thing. I think the social media, I think it came about because I was hashtagging, and I know this sounds really nerdy and weird, but I spent so much time and still do tagging my photos with the actual like subject and content and what it is. Like you could do like mood, Kayla Varley, like all that stupid nerdy stuff, but you spend a lot of time putting words to photos and then they're findable that way. And I think that's how certain people found me. And then back to your question. Sorry, I just like totally blabbered on. What was the question you asked? Sorry.
Oh yeah, just what's your approach to social media? But you kind of said that now, and then what other opportunities has it led to?
I honestly think it's led me to meet so many different people and inspiring women in LA. For instance, this musician emailed me back in, I think, August last year. And she just reached out and sent me her work. And she's an amazing, amazing musician. Her name is Sarah Winters, and she goes by the name of Vox. It's spelled Vox. And she was like, hey, I love your work. Here's my work. Let's collaborate if you have time. And then so I was obsessed with her, so of course I linked up with her and we shot some personal work, and it's epic. It's so insane. She's in the desert, fully nude at sunrise, and it's just like I had this like totally surreal moment looking at her with the sun rising, just feeling like, oh my God, this is what I get to do. This is so exciting and so creative, and like I hold that shoot very, very close to my heart. It's amazing. So I think social media opens me up to these opportunities, which is it's just great that this is life,
Yeah, that's awesome. And then let's get into an audience question. So somebody asked, JWC, you're based in LA, your agency's in New York. What's the difference between the two markets, in your opinion?
So I haven't worked in New York very much. And I've only been with my agency since January of this year. We've been talking since like November or September last year, but it's not been too long. LA is very focused on like sun and lifestyle and like smaller lookbooks, and it's like California fashion, like surfwear, or like swimwear. And then New York is obviously more focused on editorial and a bit more of an edgier fashion side, which I would love to go to New York and spend more time there so that I could tell you more about New York's side,
Yeah. And then speaking of which, so you mentioned your agent. Did you have an agent before that, or is this your first agent? How was that process to landing an agent? A lot of emerging photographers are always curious about that story, and it takes different paths. But yeah, tell us about that.
I started speaking with Ray Brown. It's my first agent. I started speaking with Ray back in October of last year, or sorry, November, or it was like September, I think. And I actually got in touch with him from a friend named Bobby Kopp, who is a producer, and he's a good friend of mine. And he linked me up, and they really liked my work. And when I had a job in New York in January this year, I met them, and they see a lot of potential in me. And I honestly, like, I'm still very young, and I'm still just trying as hard as everybody else, but they have huge photographers, and they see something in me that they want to nurture and help grow. And it's been a great journey so far. It's just only starting.
Yeah, we actually have one of their stylists, one of the stylists, Daniela Young on. I think she's also represented by Ray Brown. She's fantastic. Yeah, she is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. That's so dope. So in terms of, so I guess that's interesting. So a lot of the people that we've had on have been more, they've had agents. Some people have agents for like 10 years. So it's interesting to have somebody who just got that agent. And a lot of people kind of think, oh, I have an agent, so now I made it. But you've been hustling and grinding, without an agent. So I guess, what's the difference is?
The difference now is that I have the ability to go the next step and like enter that next level with clients and clientele and just like publications. For example, I just went to New York on a complete business trip last month, which I've never done in my life, but I met with Vogue, Harper's, and like Anomaly, DDB, like these huge ad agencies and huge magazines that I never dreamed of being able to get in front of. And I think having Ray and Suzanne and Charlie at Ray Brown, with their connections and their ability to put two and two together, like it's been great. And before that, I would have never been able to get into those meetings, I don't think.
Nice. And I guess somebody asked the question, did you ever use agency access for email marketing, or do you feel like services like that aren't great? And I guess for you, probably not really, because you're all about social media, but I guess, what was your kind of marketing before you were able to get into an agency and when you started out?
I've never used agency access. I'm sure that they do at Ray Brown, but I think in my past experience, it's not very professional to just do a cold call unless you already have like a connection or some way for them to really receive you well. I just don't feel that people are going to open your email without knowing who you are and respond without getting annoyed. So I try to not send out too many mailers like that. And if I do, I try to do it very tactfully. Because I don't ever want to be annoying, and I don't ever want to ruin a chance of getting work or having a client hire me because they'll be like, oh, that person's obnoxiously sending me mailers that I don't want to see, It's hard. You have to be so tactful with that kind of stuff. And I'd rather let the people in charge, like Ray and Suzanne, do that so that I'm not putting myself in an uncomfortable position.
Nice. So I'm starting to see some of the questions about your work. So let's jump to the work, which is always one of the funnest. Yeah. All right. So, bam, we are on the website, and yeah, this work is absolutely fantastic. A specific tone, you have a very specific look. There's a little bit of sexiness to it, but not like overtly. It's all suggestive. This is amazing stuff. So, let's just kind of scroll through and talk about anything that jumps out.
Thank you. Yeah, I do agree it's a little bit sexy, but I do it in a way that I think is very respectful and a little bit more of an undertone and just kind of hints to an idea. But for the most part, lifestyle is my favorite section, and I love movement, energy, and connection. Like that smile you just rolled over is real. I kind of prompted that.
Right.
It happened so easily, and that's what I love. I love a real smile. I love a real reaction. I love a real moment. And I think a lot of what my photography is me trying to connect with people, and that's just how I operate. It's like another appendage that should be attached to my head. So it's like, I guess it's just, this is fun for me. And again, there's so much energy, and I just try to have fun, and I try to be happy, and I try to inspire other people, and I like to be in the moment with my subjects. That's like the most inspiring to me.
Yeah, so one of the questions asked, I believe, is, let's see here, was, gotta find it. Oh, here we go. This is Tammy, and she says, "Hi, Kayla, I love how fun and playful your images are," which you just referenced, reflecting both your and your model's personalities. When working with the model for the first time, do you start out more posed and as everyone gets more relaxed, move into more playful shots, or do you guide your models along? So pretty much just kind of what's your process to working with models and getting those moods you want?
Okay.
And we can probably even go back to this one as a good example of that natural, like you meant, or whichever smile you want to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I think, okay, so it's hard. You have to kind of read your models and your subjects as you meet them. For the most part, I like to shoot with people that I've already shot with, but there's always opportunities when you're meeting someone new for the first time, and you have to kind of just gauge their personality. And then it's like a dance. You really you work through it with just having a conversation, trying to talk about things that might make them have a reaction. And then I myself, my personality is so giggly and like nerdy and just kind of all over the place that I think that allows them to really be vulnerable and open up as well. And it's hard to say, like posing, I don't necessarily want, but I do like when someone can move fluidly and they move, but it's kind of without me doing too much prodding. And if I see something that I'm like, hey, stop that, then I love to do that. But I'd like for a moment to happen naturally. And I shoot really fast, so I like to just make sure I capture every moment. That way, when I go back and I look at everything, I can like take the ones that I really, really, really enjoy. But like, for example, that smile one, I don't even know what happened. I think someone, maybe the stylist or the makeup artist, said something funny, and I try to always be in there in case those moments do happen so I can shoot it. And then like the one of the girl jumping on the red wall, I said like, hey, go jump on that. And then she's like, oh, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, like, can you try to actually put your feet on the wall and then jump off? And she tried, and she thought it was so funny because it kind of felt awkward. And that's, I think that's a lot of it, is just like trying to put people in positions where they're going to be laughing or they're going to be having fun, and actually having fun with them. Like having a beer with a model is probably one of the most hilarious things, just to break that barrier of being so guarded. Like that's everybody in LA, everybody in the world is so guarded and so afraid of being themselves. But when you are yourself and you allow someone else to be themselves, then it's like you can just get anything you want. Does that make any sense?
I think it does. I've heard the same thing, and as I'm just going to keep going through here, but I've heard that same thing so many times. People think it's all about like posing, but I remember we had a photographer, Mackenzie Duncan, actually, I think he's based in LA. He says sometimes he'll just shoot the shit with his models for an hour and a half before they even start shooting, just to get to know them, talk with them, have fun. And then, only then when, you know, everybody's, because you have to build trust.
Yes.
And then only, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing, saying yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know, you have to build trust. And so I think that kind of struck me as just like, yeah, so I think just getting it, or, you know, we had another person, Kareem Black on who, you know, he'll have a DJ on set just to get the party started and have fun. So I think that that's really what it's all about. Like make sure people are comfortable.
Yeah, I always say, like, if anyone ever shoots with me, all I want is for them to feel comfortable and to feel at ease, because so many times I've heard of people being like, oh God, I had the worst shoot and the photographer was so mean. I never want to be that person. I never want anyone to feel uncomfortable around me. And if they do, then maybe the energy's just not there. I'm very, very, very big on energy and comfortability and just being a good person to the people that you work with. I don't agree with people that are assholes. Not into that.
Cool. So let's move along and jump into kind of some commission work. You mentioned you've done a couple shoots of note. So let's jump to, gotta find it. This one. So you said this was pretty kind of a big shoot for you, you know, when you were just getting going. So talk about this.
Yes. So this was the first. This was like a dream job for me. I was still pretty young in my career. I mean, I still am, but it was the biggest dream of mine to shoot for Levi's. And I met with them in San Francisco early on, kind of maybe like 6 or 8 months before I shot this, and not knowing if they were going to hire me or not. But then they asked me to shoot for their archive, I think later on in the year, and I got to do my own like creative direction, art direction. I got to like be very creative because it was so loose, and I got to find my own model, and it was very like, and it was low budget, but I got to be super creative, which is always fun. And it was Levi's. For me, that was huge, to be able to shoot for something that I felt I was, you know, probably incapable of doing at that age. But it's still like, it's a very strong piece of my portfolio, and I'm really proud of it.
And so obviously you didn't have an agent for this, type of project, but yet you were still able to land this project just from hustling and going out there. So what was that, process like? How did you meet with these guys or get this contact?
Again, it was through social media. I want to say the creative director found me on Instagram. Oh no, sorry, the global marketing director found me on Instagram, and I, using my my little like hustling nerdy skills, I was like, oh, this guy works at Levi's, and then I talked to him on Instagram, or maybe it was via email, and he was like, he said if I ever wanted to come meet with the team, that I could do that. And so I went to San Francisco and I met with them, and they were very responsive and very, very cool. And then I met with him again later on, I think in LA, and then shortly after they contacted me. So that was fun.
Nice. And so on the screen now we have another kind of series that you really love. That was this is actually commissioned work. So I guess talk about this brand and this project.
Okay. This is a Muse Society. The model's name is Emma Stern Nielsen, and this is probably one of my favorite shoots I have up on my website right now. Reason being is that it's so clean, and the energy and the realness of each moment it's not so stoic. And I love the colors. I love the treatment that I did. And we shot all of this in California, in, I want to say, Laguna Beach or near Laguna Beach. And we had a creative director, we had makeup artists, stylists, a pretty big crew. And I think we shot around 5 locations, and the range was quite large. We shot from sunrise to sundown that day, and we had these amazing, really, really tall mirrors that we stuck in the sand. So for that shot, the model was actually looking into a huge mirror, and it was crazy. It was the most beautiful day in California. That model was epic. She was stunning, has the craziest lips. I was like obsessed with her, completely dying over her. She's so beautiful. And just, it was just a really, really, really good crew. Like everyone got along. Everyone was super happy to work with me, and I was very happy to work with them too. And I shot a lot for that brand actually for a while.
Cool. And so actually, before I get into it, let's talk about personal projects.
Okay.
And you obviously you mentioned just shortly that there's one project in particular I want to get into that you absolutely love. So I've heard from so many photographers. I think every photographer we've had on this show, which is actually now like 15, they've all said that personal projects are everything, that all their gigs have come from personal projects. Yourself, you post on Instagram and boom, you're getting Levi's, and you're getting your agent, which is amazing. So I guess talk about not shooting for like editorial or brands, but like just shooting for yourself, personal projects, what that means to you, and then just to your career so far.
So I started shooting self-portraits when I was very young, when I first started shooting, because I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'll touch on it more. I saw that photography as therapeutic and a therapy for me, because I was very angsty and kind of sad as a child, just kind of felt lonely, and I felt like the photography could really bring me out of that. So a lot of the personal work on my website right now under the personal section is it's either self-portraits or a mixture of the way that I shoot self-portraits, but on another woman. And that stuff for me is so deep and so raw, and it's what makes me feel alive and feel like I can grow. And looking back on a lot of those images now, I see this woman that might not be here today, but she's still very much a part of me. And I'm thankful that I've had those moments, because they all make me grow. And then, so the self-portraits are very, very moody and kind of dark and like a little bit eerie and twisted. But I think having that next to like the personal or the portrait section it's a good contrast, because then you can see just how dark I can get. And the portrait work on my site is also pretty personal. I shoot that on a consistent basis. It's mostly me just setting up little test shoots here and there. And I think a lot of that is pretty good for commissioned work too, because I shoot all of the time. And I love getting people to become vulnerable in front of me and just show me their real selves. And I love this.
Yeah, no, you can tell you can definitely tell you're able to really capture a particular mood from your models, which is amazing.
You.
Whether it be guy or girl.
I definitely respond to women more, just because I feel like they are better at emoting and can show me their true emotions better than a man can. And so this stuff is epic. I love it. Seriously, if I could have a dream shoot, it's this shoot. So I took that girl out into the desert at this place called Vasquez Rocks. And
this is the musician.
Sorry,
correct?
Yes, she's a musician. She's amazing. She sounds like she kind of reminds me of Lorde with the way that she produces her work. And it's epic. She has like full armpit hair, just like very, very, very powerful and into her own self, and is like a very strong woman, which I find very inspiring. And again, we just this was so unplanned. I scouted the shoot prior to shooting it, or I scouted the location prior to shooting it, but I didn't really have these certain shots in my head. It just came out naturally. And that white sheet she's holding over her head is actually a sheer that I was going to put on a window in my house, but I never did because I used it in the shoot. And it looks kind of rad, even though it's just such a simple white sheer, you know? And then that hand photo I have on my wall back there, it's one of my favorites. It's so dark and weird, but I don't know, I love it. I love that it's the hands cut off. Oh God, I don't know. These photos are so deep to me. They make me feel alive. I don't know. I'm probably blabbering on.
Yeah, like, no, keep going. This is amazing.
I love these. Oh God. She will forever be probably one of my favorite people to shoot. She moves in such a way that's so slow and eerie, and like she knows how I shoot, so she'll just like do that dance with me where she's like just like moving so slow but allowing for me to get in there and get the shots that I want. Like that one's fucked up. Sorry, it's so beautiful. I love that one. Oh, there's the self-portraits I was talking about.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so this stuff is like, as you can tell, it's a little, like I look a little sad in that photograph. And that's probably 5 or 6 years ago, I want to say. But I always felt like taking self-portraits in order to get a certain idea out of me or a certain sadness out of me in order to just feel a bit lighter. And I still take self-portraits, but not nearly as much as I used to, just because I don't have the time and I don't have so much of a need to get any sadness out because I'm a lot less sad now that I'm older.
Now that you're working in your professional photography, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think, one thing that I really enjoy about kind of your process is I hear, a lot of photographers that they're like, oh, I don't have anything to shoot. I don't have this. I don't have that. And, you're just like, look, camera, me, flip, shoot and it's like, I just feel like so many people kind of come up with excuses of like why they can't shoot. And it's just like, if you have a camera and you have something around you, start shooting. Yeah. And so I think that's great that you like, all right, I'm going to shoot myself and then let's see where this goes.
Thank you. I think it's important to be resourceful because, you're not always going to have everything perfect. And in order to really make anything that's worthwhile, you have to use the things that you know and that are surrounding you, because people will connect. People will always connect to what is true and real. And I think that's important. It's never good to put on a fake just outward facade. But this is real. It's me. Like, this is all I know. And if you want to do that too, then I think that's amazing. And you should try and use everything around you in order to create, because if we're not creating, we're not doing anything important, or we're too idle. I don't like being idle.
Yeah, and then so one of the questions, this goes back to, you just mentioned you scouted that location. One of the questions here is, do you work with a location scout to help you find unique locations, which sounds like mostly no. And then how do you find a lot of the locations that you do shoot in?
So yeah, I don't use a location scout. I think on bigger shoots, we have the creative director or someone that works with the creative director help us scout. But if I'm doing personal work, I do it myself just because I don't like to be surprised on the day. Sometimes it's nice to be spontaneous, but it's also really nice to have a plan, and to kind of, it's not like a rigid plan, but it's a plan for certain shots. And California, to be honest, is like a plethora of locations that you could just like shoot every single day and not be bored. There's the canyons, there's the beaches here, there's the desert, there's the mountains. You can go anywhere and you can use anything. Like my favorite thing these days for personal work is to go in the alleyways of Los Angeles and shoot a model in the alley. I have a weird obsession with alleyways because they have so many textures and lines and just graphic, like for instance, in LA, there's so much graffiti that people will paint over graffiti with different colors, and I find that really cool because there's just these different gradients. It's like a taupe, and then there's like a brown, and there's like a neutral brown, but then it's like just layered on top, and it makes for such an interesting background. So if I'm driving around and I see something that's interesting, I'll just shoot it with my phone and then usually go back to it if I remember it. But I'm always taking brain photos. I always try to remember if I've seen something pretty, or if I see something online that I really like and I want to shoot at, I'll drive to it and see if it's useful, you know?
I like that brain photo. I never heard that one before. I'm gonna use that next week. I'm gonna use that later today, actually, and I'm gonna say I came up with it.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's any other questions to tackle here. So one of the questions was, have you always focused on both fashion and lifestyle? What made you decide to pursue the second genre? You kind of answered this, which is you focus more on lifestyle. So that's that question. Let's see. Oh, here's more of a technical one. How did you get in with Penguin Books UK? What was that process like?
That was years ago. That was probably one of my first jobs or first commissioned works. They emailed me about an image of my hands, and I'm not using it on my website. It's an old self-portrait, and I think it's two hands like this, but it's like against white, and it's black and white. They emailed me and asked if I wanted to commission that photo for a book cover. And the book cover was for a scientist? It was something about thinking. And they spoke with me. We had a couple back and forth emails, and it's been a while. Sorry, I'm a little fuzzy on that. But for the most part, it was fairly easy. And I don't know how they found me. I think they might have found me through
social media? No.
I think through the website Flickr. People don't really use it anymore, but I still do. It's a great way to just have all my work in one place, besides Dropbox. But I want to say they probably searched for an image that just said hands or black and white, and I guess they liked it, so they emailed me about it, and I sold it.
Cool. So let's talk more about your actual work and kind of, I guess, process to your shoot. So first off, you obviously shoot a lot of location, a lot of natural light. So does your natural light tend to be more real natural light or more like manufactured natural light where you have the whole studio outside and you just made it look like it was natural light?
Everything that I shoot outside is like completely natural, save for a bounce if I need it for like a fill. But I really try to be super low key and as natural as possible. I don't prefer shooting with, I almost said I don't like, but I really just don't prefer fake lighting. I think it really does not lend to my style of photography. And it also can add like another layer of uncomfortability to the models that I'm shooting. For some reason, subconsciously, I think having a fake light, or not a fake light, but having not natural light can just make people feel uncomfortable because it's not natural. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like certain models will kind of hold themselves in a different way. It's not as it's almost like they pose more when there's a light in front of them.
Yeah, because people's, natural, society has taught us that when you're in a studio and, there's lighting set up, it's, it's like a fashion shoot. It's like pose. People think pose, but that's not your style. Your style is all about catching emotion and catching moments. So therefore, if it's just outside with natural light, you just flash on your camera. It's almost like, hey, look, there's friends around and we're just shooting. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
I like to let people be, and I don't I honestly, if I have a bounce and I can fill the shadows, that's all I need.
That's cool. And so when you do get a commission, what is it for you? What's the creative process? Where do you start first? Is it research? Is it, what's kind of that process?
When I get a commissioned work, I usually like to feel out the people I'm working with. And just as they're going to see if I'm a good fit, I like to see if they're a good fit for me too. And usually we have like a creative call. We talk about usage and all of the logistical stuff that is not necessarily very fun, but it's good to have that taken care of before you really go any further. And so I write out estimates. We put a little contract forth just to make sure that everything's all good and on top of the table. And then we have the creative call. I might scout a location. I might help with casting. I prefer to help with casting most of the time because then I can choose the models I'm using and really have a say with the people, because it's most important to me. Obviously, connection's really, really, really important, and I want to use people that I'm going to connect with. And I like to use people that are unique or have an interesting like freckle or gap in their teeth or eye color or hair haircut, whatever. I like to just use people that I think have their own story to tell as well as being pretty. And then we shoot for the most part. I mean, there's always a little bit more than what I'm saying, but that's the condensed version.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be a week, 2 week, 3 long process, etc. So let's end with something fun, which is, does anybody want to join us on screen to ask Kayla any questions? You can invite people on. We can invite 2 at a time. Every time I do this, nobody ever wants to do it. I don't know. It's the most weirdest thing. I'm like, look, this is an amazing photographer. Talk to them, connect. And no one wants to do it. I don't know what it is. So if anybody, I'm just going to pick a couple people. If you are able to, definitely feel free to join. Let's see who is up for it. It's so weird. I would love to do so. I'm like, what? I want to meet everybody. Sign me up. So we'll give them a couple seconds to see if they can join up. Just gonna invite everybody. Whoever signs on first is can say. Jenny, I see you asked a question. Do you want to ask your question live?
Jenny Chen.
Yes. We'll invite her. We'll see what happens in 5 seconds. Otherwise, we would just answer your question. So I guess while she's thinking about joining, what is next for you?
Okay, she said she's not ready, but I will answer it here. I am going to New York in a couple of weeks on the last week of this month, and I'm shooting a campaign for Lively, which is an intimates line started by the people who worked at Victoria's Secret, and it's the complete opposite of Victoria's Secret. So it's like very not super sexy and more about energy and movement and showing a real woman wearing underwear. And you can see it on my website. It's the first shoot that I have that comes up under the commission section. And those people are really, really great to work with. They're super fun and very, very, very respectful. It's probably one of my favorite jobs I've worked on in the past couple months.
Cool. Let's see if we can. Oh wait, I already have it. I'm a clown. Yeah, we can bring that one up just so you can kind of talk about that next project. Screen share. Bam. But first, let's get one more quick look at the amazing personal work, just for the heck of it. Okay, now we're going through commissions. And you said this project right here.
Yes. Yeah, so it's all like, they love my hair movement because I'm really big on hair, as you can tell. And it's just, we shot this in New York in the city, I think on Bowery and Second, and this really beautiful loft with great light. And I had so much fun that day. We laughed so much, and we just had a really great crew. Again, I think it's really important to have good energy with the people that you're working with. And Michelle Grant, who works at Lively, is an amazing, amazing person. She's very, very talented. And they just kind of let me do my thing. And I also had my fiance art direct this one for me because he's really, really, really talented. And I think we got great images. I love this stuff, and I can't wait to work with them again.
Awesome, cool. So looks like nobody wants to ask you questions on screen. Everybody's shy. It's crazy. It's all good though. Maybe next time. Maybe we'll get you on in a couple of months, and
No worries.
and after the project, see if people want to join us. Okay, somebody asked, do you work alone or do you have assistants?
I like to have assistants. I think it's important because then it allows me to really focus on what I have to do. And again, I said that my fiance helps me with art direction. He's a great assistant too. And it's almost like he can see what I need to do next without me telling him. And no assistant's really going to ever do that for me that doesn't know me. So if I do have an assistant, they either have to be really good friends with me or they have to be my man. And I like to have a large team because then it allows me to focus on just shooting. If somebody's taking care of styling and makeup and there's a PA there, there's people that are dealing with the stuff that I don't want to deal with, like logistical stuff, like a digitech would be perfect on set. I actually just had a shoot last week where we didn't have a digitech, and I was really kicking myself for not requiring one because it took away from my job and didn't allow me to focus as much. And that's just, it's part of it, but it's nice to have those things in place in order to really maximize what you can do as a photographer.
Cool. It looks like that could be it. I have nothing more to ask because your work is awesome. I've seen it all. I think it's amazing. You've definitely answered some questions. We'll definitely need to get you on again. Also, we're in New York, so when you come here, say what's up.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you guys. And again, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really, really, really happy, and I hope I wasn't too much of a weirdo or a dork. I'm completely. This is my life. Oh, sorry, I just hit that flower. This is my life, and
I love how you said sorry to the flower.
I'm glad to be able to share my story and laugh with you. Yeah.
So thank you. So everybody watching, you'll be able to rewatch this right after we hit the stop button. So feel free to watch it whenever you want. You can keep chatting too if you want to do that as well. I'm trying to think. We have some amazing people this week. We have Dove Shore, outstanding photographer. I think we have Christopher. We just have so many people. It's not getting crazy,
yeah.
But so we'll have to follow up with you in the future. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kayla.